In 3,300 years of analyzing leaders, they find that they all have 7 qualities in common, and these qualities are all learnable. You learn them by practice, and here's what we found. Whatever you dwell upon or think about grows in your mentality. If you put water and sunshine on a seed, it grows in the soil. If you think about these qualities, you start to develop them. Number 1, the most important quality is vision. Leaders have vision. Leaders have a clear picture of the future. Peter Drucker said that if you do not have a vision to be a world leader when you start your business on your kitchen table, you'll probably never be very successful. Imagine you could be a world leader. Then you ask the question, well, if I was the world leader in my field, how would I be different from today? How would my company be different from today? We were just talking earlier about Steve Jobs and Apple Computer. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started out in a garage with an idea to put together pieces and make a little Apple computer that people could have at home. His vision was to have a PC on every desktop in the world. When he said this in the late 70s, everybody said he must be crazy. There's no reason for anyone to have a personal computer. Within a couple of years, they were literally avalanched out of the business because everybody wanted a personal computer. Today, if you don't have a computer, you're living in the Stone Ages. Your telephone is a computer. You have an iPad. You have a computer at home. So you start thinking, if your business was world class, if you were world class, how would you be different from today? And then here's the key. Take the first step. The first step is always the hardest step because it forces you, like a chick breaking out of an egg when it hatches. The first step forces you to break out of your comfort zone, and the comfort zone is so strong that probably 90% of people are held back from their full potential all their life because of this vice, like comfort zone. You cannot achieve it if you cannot write it down. You don't know what it is. You're unclear, fuzzy. It's almost like you're driving in the fog or a dark night with no lights. But when you write it down, it starts to be clearer and clearer, and there's a direct relationship between how clear your ideal future is on paper and how fast you create it. You may have heard about the book, The Secret. The Secret is the law of attraction, which, by the way, was discovered 4,000 years before Christ. The Secret says that if you're very clear about what you want in your mind, you start to attract it into your life. You may not even know clearly how or when you're going to achieve it. All you have to do is be clear about what you want. And that's what we say, what you want. If your life was perfect in the future, what would it look like? Write it down. The difference between winners and losers in every field. Winners take the first step with no guarantee of success. Which brings us to the second quality, and the second quality is courage. In these 3,300 studies, they found the 2 qualities that every single leader had in common was vision, an exciting picture of the future that they wanted to create, and courage, which was the courage to take action on the vision with no guarantees. Remember, just simply taking action, taking the first step with no guarantee, is the mark of the leader. Nothing worthwhile in life is possible without taking a risk, and the risk is that it won't work. Move out of the comfort zone. The biggest single limitation on success in work today is the comfort zone. People become comfortable doing things a certain way, and they don't want to change. There is a whole new field that I am working in. It's called business model innovation. Because of rapid change in our business world, most business models are obsolete. The wonderful thing about business model innovation is that it's a skill, and they're all learnable. As you can learn, but you've got to get out of your comfort zone. This is the hardest thing for all companies. The biggest single obstacle is that people won't change because they're so comfortable doing it the old way. The third quality of leadership worldwide is integrity. It means that leaders are honest and trustworthy. People trust them. It's impossible to follow someone if you don't believe them, if you don't believe that what they say is true. The biggest mistake that leaders can make is to make a promise and not keep the promise, or to say that they will do something and then not do it. Integrity is considered the most important skill. It even comes before leadership, vision, and courage. So it's really important, if you're a leader and you have a reputation for not telling the truth, you will soon be pushed aside and everybody won't know who you are. and then you will be finished. In the military academies, I think it's worldwide, it's the same. But in the military academies, whenever you are confronted with a senior officer, and let's say your tie is askew or your jacket is not ironed, that's a cadet. Why is your jacket unironed? That's a cadet. Why is your jacket unironed? You're only allowed to give one of three answers. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. You are not allowed to say any other words to a senior officer except, yes, sir, I will do it. No, sir, I will do it. No, sir, I didn't do it. And no excuses, sir. That's how they train the top officers in the world. Yes, sir. No, sir, no excuses. Because they know that nothing makes a person weaker or littler than always making excuses. You just sound awful. You just sound incompetent. No leader could be a leader if all they did was make excuses. There is a turning point in your life where you become an adult or you remain a child, and it's like a line that you cross. You come up to this line, and on one side of the line, the other side of the line is responsibility, where you are now responsible for the rest of your life. On this side of the line is blaming others for your problems. Blaming is the major source of negative emotions, unhappiness, stress, and failure. Accepting responsibility is the major reason for happiness, personal power, and success. When you step across the line, you say, from now on, I accept complete responsibility for my life and for everything that happens to me. If you have a goal, you accept responsibility for achieving the goal. If you have a problem, you accept responsibility for solving the problem. But whatever happens, you don't blame other people. Blaming makes you weak and angry. It makes you feel inferior and insecure. Henry Ford once gave this motto for success, and I use it all the time. I love it. It's never complain, never explain. This is the fifth quality of leaders, is excellence. Leaders set high standards. There's a famous story of Henry Kissinger when he was the Secretary of State, and he had thousands of people working for him. One top executive brought him a report on a particular area of foreign policy, and the next day he came back and Kissinger said, "This report is not good enough. I need you to redo it." The executive said, "Okay." The executive said, "Okay." And he took it away and worked on it for 2 days and brought it back the next day. Kissinger called him in and said, "It's still not good enough. You've got to do this better." The executive went back and spent 3 or 4 days, the whole rest of the week and the weekend. Finally, the following week, he brought it in and said, "Sir," I said, "I cannot make this any better. This is the finest, the tightest, the most accurate report I could possibly do." Kissinger said, "Okay, now I'll read it for the first time." And that is an interesting story because he demanded such high standards, yet he was running the foreign policy of the United States for several years during one of the most important periods in history. So leaders work for excellence in products and services. They're constantly striving. They did a study recently on the fastest growing small and medium-sized companies in America. These companies in America, these companies in 3 years had grown 10, 20, 50, 100 times in size and profits. One company had grown 42,000% in 3 years. 42,000%. That's 4,200 times from when it started to 3 years later. Unbelievable. Then they studied and asked, what was the most important factor in the success of these businesses? All in very competitive fields with tremendous competition, and they started off with no money. They started off with every problem you could imagine. Number one was the quality of the products and services they produced. They were recognized as being top quality, and the leaders of those companies were intensely focused on improving quality. So we call this continuous and never-ending improvement. Every day, they're looking for ways to improve their products and services and the way they take care of their customers, and sometimes one small change makes a tremendous difference. Number 6 is communication. Leaders are good communicators. There's an inextricable link between leadership and communication. Those who lead are the ones who can clearly talk about what they believe, and those who can clearly talk about what they believe are the ones who lead. Let's imagine that we're out on a 3-hour tour on a boat and we get stranded on a desert island. Here we are, all stranded on the desert island. The question is, how will we get off the island? Well, one of us stands up and says, "I will lead." We like that. We're social animals. We appreciate leadership. And he stands up and says, okay, who's got ideas? You, do you think we should build a fire? I like it. Good. You, do you think we should look for food? Good, good, good. You, do you think we should build a boat? Good, I like it. Okay, when we get help, okay. When we get help, we'll come back and get you. The question I have for you is, who do you want to follow? Who do you want to follow? We want to follow the second guy. There's no data to show that that fishing village exists. There are no photographs, and no one else saw it. The only thing we have is his conviction, his absolute belief in the existence of that world that we cannot see, and his ability to put that future state into words that we are drawn to. We will volunteer to go with him, maybe even take personal risks. I don't know how to get through the forest. I don't know how to cut down trees, but I will go because I believe it's important not for me, but for the greater group. The irony is our own survival depends on our ability to help each other. This is the irony. And here we go. We rally together. We choose to take the risk. We choose to follow. We volunteer to follow him. And we go through these woods, and it's hard. We have to cross rivers, go around boulders, and chop down trees. Eventually, we come to where he said the fishing village is, and there's no fishing villages. Did he lie to us? Were we just conned? And we say to him, where's the fishing village? You said there was a fishing village. You said if we could get here, we would survive. And he turns to us and says, I believe there was a fishing village, but that doesn't matter because look what we were able to do. We were able to get through that forest together. That means we can pick absolutely any direction on this island and we will be able to get there. We will be able to get there. Called leadership. When people believe what you believe, they will work for you with blood and sweat and tears. When they don't believe what you believe, they work for your money. The goal is not to surround yourself with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to surround yourself with people who believe what you believe. Now, the seventh quality of leadership is action. Many years ago at a talk, I was speaking to Rich DeVos when he was on his way up. Rich DeVos, the president of Amway, worth $3 billion today, started off knocking on doors selling soap, and he was working his way up. I asked him, what have you found? What's the most important quality of successful people? He said, Brian. He said, Brian. He said, Brian. He said, we found there's a direct relationship. I still remember him telling me this, between how quickly a person takes action on a new idea and how likely it is they'll ever take action on any idea at all. So the action orientation is the critical thing. We watch people. Everybody hears the same things. They hear the same things. They hear the same ideas, but then we watch and we see how quickly they take action. And if a person takes action quickly on a new idea, the chances are they're going to be successful go up by hundreds of %. The most wonderful thing is that when you take action, you get 3 benefits. The first benefit is that you get feedback, which enables you to self-correct. And all of life is a process of experimenting and feedback and changing and correcting this, all of life. Second of all is you get ideas. There's something about acting that actually triggers your creativity. It makes you smarter. It activates more of your brain. Sitting there passively doesn't do anything, but taking action actually sort of lights up your brain like a Christmas tree. The third factor is that taking action gives you confidence. Your self-confidence goes up as the more actions you take in the direction of your goals. The more confidence you have, the more creative you are, the more energy you have, the happier you are, the happier you are. You feel like you're in control of your life. You feel powerful. That is why the difference, the 80-20 rule that we've talked about, the top 20% of people in every society and business are proactive. They're constantly taking action. The bottom 80% are passive. They're waiting for someone else to come and tell them what to do. And since you are highly proactive, you're obviously in the top, probably the top 10% of your field. The people in the top 10% are the ones who enjoy all the rewards. They're the ones that make all the money. They're the ones that make all the progress, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term.